Thank you. So our first question was from India. We now go to Tanzania. Luna Gello from ESRF has a question.
Yes, but let me start from where Louis just ended. That is true that over years, and especially after the Paris Declaration on donor harmonization of aid, etc., the landscape in terms of packaging of donor aid and policy changes in our countries have changed. But I still see a gap, whether it's generic among especially sub-Saharan countries, that we still get ambushed by donor packages which come associated with strings, policy strings. And so as the policy think tanks, we start reacting when it's already too late. The governments have already agreed with the donors because they come with a carrot. So how can either ourselves as think tanks, can you advise us as donors, how can we find space so that we can really come in and intervene before it's too late? Because it's very difficult to work against something which has already been agreed between our governments and donors. Thank you.
Jean, will you comment on how to avoid being ambushed by donors?
Well, I think that whenever there are meetings of the bilateral agencies, we can also approach our governments and work with them to develop briefs to present at these meetings. I mean, you can approach your finance ministry, basically, if you have some indication of some of the things that will be discussed, and prepare some briefs for them based on research and present these memos to them so that once they go to these meetings, they can argue these cases for us. Because I believe that most of the time, our governments may go unprepared and may agree to things that do not favor us. Again, as think tanks, I think that it will be important to also build a database of very influential people. So you could have on your database, the head of the Africa desk at the World Bank, the IMF, and so on, and submit memos to them through the email and that sort of thing. And also, I think that we could use the media. I mean, we all have some international media in our countries, the BBC, CNN, and so on. And once you come up with some concrete results or some concrete research on some of the decisions that we'll be taking at these meetings, you could arrange meetings with the media or discussions with the media and put across the message or the concerns of the people. And I think this would be a way to provide, or this could be a way to have space and to contribute to some of the decision making and so on.
Would you like to?
Yes,
please do.
A quick one. Apart from the think tanks, I think we need a culture change among our leaders. Many of them go to meetings for, say, the replenishment of IDA, replenishment of the ADF fund. And they don't prepare before they go to these meetings. They are invited instead of consulting think tanks before they go. These documents are saturated sometimes a month before the meeting, 2 weeks before the meeting. But my experience is that there's very little internal discussion and consultation by these leaders. So there is a need for a culture change by our own leaders. I know someone said that in Canada, they used to record because these people would not read. I think we have to also find some tools of getting to these leaders who represent us in different meetings. I have been in meetings where someone is representing a region or a constituency, and they have not read through the documents.
Stefan.
Yeah, just coming into that and actually supplementing what Louis is saying here. I think one thing I've been struck by with, I don't know most of you, but some of the think tanks that's represented here, is that while they usually understand very well the local political economy, they kind of, the local political economy they engage with, they don't necessarily push this to its conclusion in terms of a proper understanding of the incentives and constraints, whether it's the local leadership or indeed the donors and the multilaterals in it. And it's actually finding concrete ways of engaging with them. I think, sitting now on the other side, I can see that as a donor, we're quite easily influenced, actually. As long as people start understanding properly the access points and the ways of doing it. And it's often much more to do with smaller things than with the kind of big grand statements of the international conspiracy against the country and writing about that, but actually finding the ways of saying, maybe organizing small events where people get briefed, finding ways of entering. But it has to start from an understanding of incentives and constraints. And, you know, donor agencies definitely face an awful lot of constraints in the environment they're working in.